All right. Good morning, everybody. Um, Thank you for joining this session. This session will be about commercial new construction, our commercial new construction programs. Um, we just had a little technical difficulty, but we are good to go now. So I'm excited to kind of present today and provide you with some information. So I am Mike Laughlin. I am a senior EEC here at Eversource, and I am in charge of all new construction, both in the residential sector and the commercial sector, for Eversource. I've been with Eversource and the new construction team since about 2010. And prior to that, I was an energy auditor as well. So I've been in the industry for quite some time now. Let's see, next slide. There we go. All right, so we are looking forward to hearing from you, and there is a Q&A button down on the bottom of your screen, so please feel free to put in some questions if some arise. And over the next 25-30 minutes, the agenda, we'll cover a quick overview of NHSaves. I think we're kind of everyone understands what that is at this point, but I'll just give a quick overview on that. And then we'll jump into the commercial pathways. We have 3 pathways here in New Hampshire that we offer on new construction programs. And then I will dive into the multifamily residential programs just to give you a quick overview of those as well. So I'm sure most of you know this by now, but it's always good to kind of go over it with everybody. What is NHSaves? So NHSaves is obviously a collaboration of all the utilities in New Hampshire, the gas and electric utilities, meaning Eversource, Liberty, New Hampshire Electric Cooperative, and Unitil. We work together to provide energy efficiency incentives to residential customers, commercial customers for energy efficiency measures. And the money for our program comes from the system benefit charge, which all customers pay into. And then we redistribute out that money for energy efficiency purposes. So no one actually works for NHSaves. We all are participants or partners into NHSaves, and you'll always be dealing with one of the utilities when it comes to our programs. And so just a quick overview on the electric territory in New Hampshire. So Eversource is the blue section. And I just show this because I want you to know that basically New Hampshire is covered, and these programs that I'm going to go over are available throughout the entire state. Doesn't matter if you're an electric customer, gas customer, these programs are available to you. So as you can see, we have a pretty good coverage between the 4 utilities. And then also with the gas utilities, this is the area that gas is available in New Hampshire. And just in case it arises, and it does arise quite often, there is possibilities where you'll be working with both utilities on one project. So you'll be working with both, for example, Eversource and Liberty on a particular project, with Eversource being your electric provider and Liberty being your gas provider. That's just an example. So we do work together. We're a team, and we always want to kind of have the best incentives and programs available for you. So just before we dive in and really kind of get into the meat of the presentation, just some quick definitions that I wanted to kind of focus on throughout the presentation. So over the past few years, we've shifted our thought process from single measures to a more comprehensive approach. And with this comprehensiveness in mind, we want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So here's the 2 quick definitions. So a zero net energy building is a building that produces as much energy as it consumes over a 1-year period. In our program, we're focusing mainly on zero net energy ready buildings. It doesn't necessarily need to have renewables included at the end of the construction, but it's nice, but it doesn't necessarily have to have that. And what we're doing is, for our first pathway, is we're paying for reduction in the energy use intensity of the building. And energy use intensity, which is obviously the next term, I hope that we're starting to kind of hear about this term a little bit more. I think it's starting to become used a little bit more out in the marketplace for sure. So what EUI is, it's based off all fuels being converted to kBTU, and that's divided by the square foot of the building per year. And that will give us a number to compare other similar buildings to figure out if your particular building is using more energy or less energy compared to that other similar building. It's very similar to miles per gallon, basically for cars. So we are able to compare cars with their miles per gallon. So we're starting to be able to compare buildings' energy use with the EUI. And just so we'll get into this, but we have pathways both in the residential and the commercial space for zero net energy buildings. And here's just a quick visualization to help us understand what zero net energy buildings are and kind of EUI. So we have two scenarios here on the screen. On the left side of the screen, you'll see a heavier building that is using a lot more, it's higher consumption. So that building obviously would have a higher EUI. This is not optimal. And if you offset that balance with some solar or renewables, it's going to help, but it's not going to slim the building down completely. So on the right-hand side, we have a much smaller, slimmer building with a lower EUI. And remember, EUI is consumption. And in this scenario, you can see it can be offset with the solar. So we can kind of balance that out, the consumption of the building by the production of what the solar is able to produce. So on the left-hand side, the consumption of that fatter building, I guess, heavier building, the solar isn't able to kind of level set that. With the consumption on the right-hand side being thinner, we're able to kind of level set that with the solar. So that's why we want to have a lower EUI. So basically, you want to do as much energy efficiency as we can to make that slimmer building before you put on the solar. So here is our 2025 new buildings and major renovation participation pathways. Like I said, we have 3 pathways, and these 3 pathways are hopefully you'll be able to find one pathway that fits your program or your project. They've been designed to kind of make sure everybody's project is able to fit into at least one of these pathways. So we've got the net zero and low EUI building pathway. And depending on the level, I don't know if I should say this, we did just have a presentation before this one on technical assistance. So we will be kind of mentioning technical assistance through this as well, because that's a major part of our new construction pathways. So depending on the level of the technical assistance you're looking for and what stage the project is actually in, that will help us determine which pathway is best fit for your project. Our first pathway, which is our net zero low EUI pathway, our focus in this pathway is to help customers design and to reach a low EUI target. And this is the hallmark pathway. It's also a pathway where we're monitoring the building for 1 year after post occupancy to ensure that the building is actually performing the way it was designed. And that's kind of, we will get further into this in the presentation, but that's a big learning curve that we've realized is the post occupancy, the 1 year post occupancy, and what we can learn from that. The second pathway is our high performance building pathway. This is a more comprehensive look. This is a comprehensive look at your design documents and building plans. We have a third-party technical assistance vendor, again, that will work with you to review the ways to improve the energy efficiency of the design by hosting a design charrette. In this pathway, the building is not modeled necessarily, but it is still comprehensively looked at through what we have a small or a high performance building pathway tool that we use to determine which measures are going to be above code that you're installing, and that's the way the incentive is paid out on those savings that are above code. And then finally, we have this third pathway, which is our prescriptive system approach pathway. And this one is for projects that come to us a little bit later in design. They may be smaller in size, or maybe not so comprehensive an approach. Maybe it's just one or two measures that we're working with, and that would be more of a prescriptive approach with that pathway. So with this, I want to make sure that we emphasize, or that I emphasize, the earlier that you engage with us, the more opportunity that we have to help out and provide incentives. So we want you to reach out, and we want to get engaged as early as possible. Ultimately, we would love to be engaged with you during the schematic design phase. I sometimes kind of joke and just say, if you're dreaming about a building one night and you wake up and you want to talk, we should talk at that point, and see what we can do to help out. So ultimately, we really want to be engaged with you during the schematic design. So that's kind of one takeaway that I hope that you all get, and will kind of take away from this presentation is don't be afraid to reach out and get engaged with us nice and early. So here is our number one pathway, which is our zero net energy, low EUI building pathway. Me personally, I've been talking about zero energy homes for many years on the residential side. We have a residential net zero building competition. We've held it for the past 10 years. We actually just celebrated some of the winners last evening with Governor Ayotte. So that was great excitement, and with the New Hampshire home builders. But with that being said, I wanted to bring what we had on the residential side over to the commercial side, and now we have. So our zero net energy buildings are not a new concept to us, but this is our first dedicated commercial incentive offering for zero net energy buildings. This pathway is intended and has been designed, like I said, to target low EUI buildings. It's been developed to provide the tools that the design teams need to succeed in designing low EUI buildings and zero net energy buildings. The focus is EUI targets in this pathway. So what we're doing is we're working with design teams in setting that EUI target from the beginning and following that target all the way through until the build process is completed. And then we're looking to measure outcomes. So like I said, we want to follow the building for 1 year after it's been in use. So we're not only just we're measuring outcomes, not just predictions from the design. So like I said, it's imperative if you want to participate in this program, in this pathway, that we are engaged early. And as I mentioned on the previous slide, we want to be engaged during the project's feasibility and conceptual design phase. If not, then we need to be at least engaged at the 50% schematic design. After that, it's really too late to participate in this pathway. The reason we want to be involved so early is because we want to realize we have to realize that in order to be successful in a low EUI zero energy building, we really need to start the conversation as early as possible. We want all parties to be involved to set early design targets, which allows the team to create a roadmap that everyone can reference and be reminded of during the build process. So just a few other requirements in order to participate in this pathway. We're looking for buildings where the design team and the owner of the building actually has a goal. They want to set a zero net energy goal. It does need to be 10,000 square feet of heated and cooled space at the minimum. And that's because of the cost of the design charrettes and everything. We want to make sure that the building will be able to produce enough savings. And let's see, what other, the year-round occupancy. So the building does need to be occupied year-round. So for schools, that can be a little challenging, but basically the requirement is it needs to be used for at least a minimum of 4 weeks during the summer. And as I've already discussed, this pathway is about outcomes rather than just predictions. So to help ensure that you achieve the energy outcomes in this pathway, we also offer the technical assistance. And this assistance will come in the form of a zero net energy expert that will work with you throughout the project. They will work with you from the schematic design, helping to produce that EUI target and then the roadmap to achieve the target. They will also stay with you throughout construction, walking step by step with you and addressing any barriers and developing solutions with the design team and the construction team. Besides the technical assistance, we offer a construction incentive, which you'll see on the next slide, the actual incentive values. And then finally, we do offer that post-occupancy incentive. So we're very interested and focused on how the building actually is performing. And for this reason, we offer a post-occupancy incentive. We consider the post-occupancy period starting once the building is in operational and steady state, and we'll work with you to determine when everyone feels that the building is actually in steady state. Once that's decided, the customer will monitor the building for 1 year and provide the data back to the utility, back to us. We will then weather normalize it and determine if we achieve that EUI that you designed that you achieve the EUI that you designed. And if so, then we pay out that incentive. Here are some EUI targets that we've set to qualify for incentives. These targets have been compiled by multiple studies that have been conducted across New England. And our TA vendors that we utilize are very familiar with these targets. And we cost share with the customer for the net zero expert to develop the roadmap and to design the team to hit or surpass these targets. So those are the targets we've got for each of those types of building types. And here are our construction incentives. So construction incentives are usually paid to the building owner. The construction incentive is currently $1.50 per square foot, which we pay that out at the end of construction. And the end of construction is when the building is in move-in condition and ready to be actually used. So that's when we'll send out the incentive check at that point. And then the post-occupancy incentive, like I mentioned, is available once we determine the building has been in steady state. The customer will monitor the building for 1 year, 12-month period, and then provide that data back to the utility. We weather normalize that to determine if it's achieved the EUI that we've set out for. If it has, we pay out that $1 per square foot. And then we also cost share the services of the net zero low EUI expert up to $10,000 with the customer. And so those are the incentives that are available for our first pathway, which is the zero net energy low EUI building. And here is one example that we've worked on here in New Hampshire, which is the Oyster River Middle School. And just to put this in perspective, we started working with these folks probably about 2018, 2019, and it just finished the post-occupancy in 2024. So we worked with them for quite some time. They were engaged with us extremely early during the process. Even before the town voted on it before the town voted to approve the school to be built, we were working with them on the design. So this is a perfect example of getting involved with us nice and early and actually working with us throughout the process and being successful. So the architect on this project, we will obviously work very closely with a lot of architects, was LaValle Brinsinger Architects. We had DMI, which is our third-party engineering firm, work with the school and to develop the energy efficiency strategy and that roadmap. We held multiple design charrettes with school officials and design teams throughout the process. It is a 147,000 square foot building. It is a school, obviously. the building envelope was a mixture of different wall tiles and wall panels and brick walls. You can kind of see it in the picture. But they all had a minimum insulating value of R34, and then the roof was insulated to an R60. So during there was obviously a lot of thought that went into this design, and then during the post occupancy of this project, which just concluded last year, is where we found some very interesting information. Sorry about that. So during the post occupancy, we actually found out that the solar hot water wasn't necessarily piped in correctly, which was affecting the EUI of that building. So during our post occupancy, we were able to find that issue, and they were able to resolve that issue and kind of obviously resolve the issue, fix that, and then once we figured that out, they were able to reach the EUI that they anticipated, which was about a 24 EUI, so it's under the 25 threshold that we needed, and that they sought out to meet. So they did actually do it, and this was the first net zero school that we worked on that went through this program in New Hampshire. Our next pathway is our high performance building pathway. And this is the most utilized pathway that we have. It's majority of all projects are going through this pathway. This is intended for projects that are over 10,000 square, over 5,000 square feet. They maybe are moving fast, but the customer is still very involved and very interested in the comprehensiveness of the project. So again, we want to be engaged early, and ideally, again, it will be during conceptual schematic design during this pathway as well. We do still offer technical assistance, and we work with you and your design team to host an energy charrette. We do a mid-design review as well, and we complete a customized high performance building tool, which will calculate the savings for all the above code measures. And that's what we're able to pay incentives on. So anything that's above and beyond code can be insulation, heating equipment, cooling equipment. There's obviously a whole array of measures. We are able to pay an incentive on that. In this particular pathway, there's no customer cost share for the technical assistance or the energy modeling. And majority of the projects have common energy efficiency measures, typical of these here. Lighting, exterior lighting, obviously natural gas, heating and hot water, envelope measures. So you can kind of see that the normal measures that we usually are seeing. With that being said, it doesn't obviously, there's other measures that can be included, and we will take a look at those and we evaluate them on a case-by-case basis. Obviously, if there's process equipment, those would qualify for custom measures, and we pay an incentive on those savings as well. And in this pathway, the incentive is 40 cents per kWh is saved above code, like I said, and $2 per therm for majority of those measures. There are a few prescriptive incentives that we offer in this pathway, such as via VFDs. That would be a prescriptive pathway in this. So again, we pay for the pre-qualified technical assistant consultant to lead an energy charrette, provide technical assistance throughout the design, come up with a list of measures, and figure out what those savings would be. And then we pay an incentive on those savings. Again, once the project is complete and in move-in condition, that's when we pay the incentive. It's a check that gets sent directly to the customer. And then finally, the prescriptive pathway. This is for smaller projects or more projects that are more in the advanced design stage. However, we're still looking to work with you and optimize to make that equipment as energy efficient as possible. you will work directly with the utility reps on this pathway. There really isn't very much technical assistance available here. If there is some sort of custom measure, then we can provide some technical assistance, but for the most part, this is more of a prescriptive pathway. And some of these may even fall under 5,000 square feet, which is fine. So yeah, this is kind of the last path, obviously the last pathway that we do offer, and it's still a very good pathway. It's just for kind of late engagement. So, excuse me, to recap, we have the pathway 1, which is our net zero low EUI pathway. That's kind of the pathway where people are really going all the way on as much as they can to figure out how to save as much energy as possible and even go to net zero. Then the second pathway, which is our high performance pathway, is where we're paying incentives on an annual kWh and therm saved over code. And then finally, our third and final pathway, which is this prescriptive pathway, is for customers that maybe come to us a little bit late in the game, but still willing to install energy efficient equipment. And we pay incentives for those prescriptively and on a custom approach per energy efficiency measure. Here's just a quick visual on the process and how the steps would work in participating in these pathways. Obviously, step 1, as I've kind of harped on and kind of, is to contact us early. We can't emphasize that enough, obviously. The earlier the better. Step 2, we have the design team will then submit a project information and we'll run the energy savings calculations and provide feedback on ways to improve your energy efficiency, as well as the estimated incentive. Once that analysis is done, we put together an incentive agreement. The utility would put together an incentive agreement and send that out to you. Then the building is obviously built, equipment is installed. Once the project is complete, usually an inspection and measure verification will take place. And then finally, the incentive would be paid at the end once the building is complete and the inspections are completed. And then we have the residential and multifamily new construction program. So here on the residential new construction program, we do have 3 distinct pathways as well here. We have a net zero challenge pathway, an Energy Star Homes pathway, and then a drive to Energy Star. So Energy Star Homes is obviously a nationwide effort to make more homes energy efficient. And we have 2 distinct tracks here. We have a Energy Star track where customers are going above and beyond code and trying to get the certification through Energy Star. And then we have a Drive to Energy Star, which is a Code Plus initiative, where again, builders are going above code, but not necessarily all the way to Energy Star. And then finally, we have a net zero competition. So a prerequisite of the net zero competition is Energy Star version 3.1. And then those homes will compete for basically the top 3 homes in the net zero competition in New Hampshire for one particular year. Last night, we just celebrated the 3 winners for our 2024 with the New Hampshire home builders. So that was a great evening and a lot of fun. And this year, you may see that our incentives have increased on residential housing for new construction. The new max incentive now is up to $10,000. That's up from last year, which for a single family home, it was $4,000 last year. This year, it's up to $10,000. So we'll get into that in a second. So again, here is kind of what happens on the residential side. You contact us again early before the house is broken ground, basically. We will get an enrollment form. We'll assign a home energy rater to you at no cost. The home energy rater will perform 3 inspections. They will take your building plans and review those and provide guidance on ways to make it more energy efficient. So that can kind of conclude the plans inspection. Then they come out to the site once the building is framed and insulated, but prior to any drywall going up, and they take a look at all the insulation before and provide suggestions. And in case anybody missed the spot or something, they'll kind of point that out. They'll take a look at air sealing measures as well at that point. And that kind of concludes the midpoint inspection. Then they come back out and do a final inspection once the house is in move-in condition. They do their final blower door testing for air leakage of the home, and a duct blaster test as well if you're using ducts. And that's pretty much the same process for single family, multifamily, townhomes. This is the process that it would go through. And then once they are done their final inspection, they produce a HERS rating, a home energy rating on the project, and that will determine how efficient the home is, and that's the way we pay the incentive off that HERS score. So here is the incentive structure for 2025. And as you can see, we have a ratcheted point system now for HERS points. So if you meet the HERS index for a single family, for example, you would get the $1,500. And that HERS index that you have to meet is it's Energy Star version 3.1 HERS index. So there's a HERS index that you have to meet. The HERS rater kind of goes through that with you and makes sure that you're going to be able to meet that at the beginning of the project. And then if you go beyond that and make it more energy efficient and you get points below what the HERS index is, you would get additional incentives. And those all max out at 10,000. For condominiums, it's 4,000. And then for multifamily, it's 1,500. And then you can get an Energy Star bonus on top of that if you decide to get the Energy Star certification. And as I mentioned, I think I mentioned all the HERS rating and testing, the utilities pay for that, so there's no charge to the customer for that. And again, here's just the kind of the submittal process. You're going to contact us. You let us know you're building it. You submit the enrollment form and the building plans. We get that over to the HERS rater. They work with you. And they do the plans inspection, the midpoint inspection, final inspection, and then they produce that HERS report, send that to us, and then we get you out the final payment. And finally, here is our Drive to Net Zero challenge. So like I said, this is for folks and builders that are going beyond Energy Star, and they still want to participate in a competition. So what we do is we provide obviously some monetary awards for the top 3. And then in addition to that, we also do marketing for the builder and the homeowner if they choose. We produce videos for them and obviously press releases. And then the videos live on NHSaves.com as well. So that is our Drive to Net Zero Challenge program on the residential side. And do we have questions? Hi, Jesse.
Hey. Hi, Mike. Hey, everyone. So there's a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, so feel free to type in any questions that you may have. So we're just going to spend a few minutes on that. So a couple of questions that I have here for Mike. From the post-occupancy for the Oyster River, did you find any issues with the building?
So for the post occupancy, I guess the major issue that we did find was that they have a geothermal system, and then they also had solar hot water. So what was happening was the solar hot water was bypassing a valve basically and kind of dumping some of the hot water from the solar back into the geothermal system. And that necessarily wasn't found until we did some kind of data research and realized that one of the valves just wasn't in the correct position. Once that was fixed, the solar hot water was obviously then producing. It was always producing, it was just not getting to the right spot. And once we fixed that valve, it got to the correct tanks, and then they were able to use that hot water correctly, and it helped their EUI drastically. So that was one of the things that we definitely found.
Okay, so another question. For a master metered multifamily building, what program does that fall under?
Yeah, so I didn't really get into that. That's a good question. So for multifamily projects, they do need to all be individually metered, the apartment units, to be able to participate in the Energy Star program. Majority of projects nowadays are all individually metered, but if they are master metered, then that would fall under commercial. And basically the reasoning being is a master metered account is a commercial account. So it would just have to fall under our commercial programs. Um, that brings up another kind of good point that I didn't mention, but so on multifamily projects, all the individual units that are individually metered are able to participate in the Energy Star Homes program and get the $1,500 per unit there. And then the common space and, hallways, common space, that would be usually a commercial account. And we're able to put that basically through the prescriptive pathway on the commercial side. So the whole building is being serviced. The individual units are being serviced through the residential program, and then the common space is being serviced through the commercial programs.
Okay. There's a question that I think you may have answered. How much does a HERS rating cost in a single family home? But I think you said that it was covered.
Yeah, so we have contracted service. So we contract with HERS raters, and we pay for the HERS rating fee. So that's covered both on single family and multifamily. But if you're just wondering if you just want to go get a HERS rating, I guess they would probably between. It depends on the HERS rater, but I would say somewhere between $1,500 to $2,000 for a HERS rating on a home.
See. So let's see, I got two more questions. If a town has a project that needs to be voted on by the public, when should we reach out to start working with you?
So usually when a town has, for example, we've been working with one town that's trying to build a new fire station. We've been working with them for the last 4 years. Each year, the design may change a little bit, and then they go to the town to get the vote, and it hasn't passed over the last 4 years. But we have been working with them along the way just to make sure that their design is what they're looking for and energy efficient, as energy efficient as possible. So it's fine to come to us early, even if it hasn't passed town vote yet. We like to be engaged even before the town vote.
So just one more question, but if anybody, we have a few more minutes. If anybody has questions, just type them right in the Q&A box. How long does it take to review design documents?
That's a great question, actually. So it depends really on when we get the design documents, right? So it can be really quick. It can take it can take a couple of days to 2 weeks. Other times, if there's questions on those design documents, or we didn't get necessarily all the information on particular equipment, such as the efficiency ratings or the sizing, or we maybe get sometimes we get design documents that aren't that don't have all the information that we need, and it's just a little bit of back and forth between our third party engineering firm and the design team to get those documents. So that can take a little bit longer, but if the whole package is available and ready, usually it can take a couple of days to 2 weeks to to review the design.
Yeah, well, that's it. So I think we can wrap up.
All right, well, thank you everybody for attending. Again, if you have any new construction projects, like I said, all 4 utilities have these programs. These are the contact information for each of the utilities. please feel free to reach out and let's start working together. I know there's a lot of new stuff happening out there. So I look forward to hopefully working with all of you. Thank you all.